This will be your early spring 2024 Oregon Coast real estate market update. We're going to quickly cover what's happened so far this year and what to expect as we head into the busy season. And then stick around just after that. We're going to cover some of the biggest news in real estate in years. The NAR, National Association of Realtors, $418 million class action lawsuit. What happened and what's it going to mean for you, the consumer, moving forward? All that starts now. Everyone, welcome back to the channel Living on the Oregon Coast. I'm your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon and Washington. We're going to quickly move through the different counties along the Oregon coast, starting with the northern Oregon coast first, which is going to consist of Clatsop County, the northernmost county on the Oregon coast. So that's Astoria, Seaside, Cannon Beach. Just south of that, Tillamook County, where you'll find places like Manzanita, Rockaway Beach, and of course, Tillamook Inland. And you've got a bunch of great little cities like Nescoin and Pacific City. And then just south of that, Lincoln County, you've got Lincoln City, Depot Bay, Newport, Waldport, and Yachats. So how are things going on the northern Oregon coast? Well, the most recent data, we have 5.3 months of inventory. And as you can see from the chart here, that is the most inventory that we've had going back to January of 2022. And if we look back beyond that, you could imagine that would be the case as well. So this is the highest inventory that we've had in a long time on the northern Oregon coast, which is welcome news for buyers. Looking down right here to the trends going forward, this is February of 2024 versus January of 2024, so month over month. New listings up 46%. You would expect, of course, new listings to be up February over January, but not quite that much. So quite the uptick in new listings. If we look year over year, February of 2024 compared to February of 2023, new listings up 11%. And that really tells us where we're at relative to where we've been. So uptick in new listings coming to the market. And look at this, pending sales and closed sales are down. So new listings combined with fewer transactions equals higher inventory, which is great news for buyers because that means that sellers now have more homes out there to compete with, and buyers are finally getting a little bit more leverage back on their side. And just below that, you probably see the average sale price down 8.4%, median sale price down 7.5%. And again, that's year over year, February 2024 compared to February of 2023. Now, that's median and average sale price, not to be confused with home sale values, which there has been a lot of speculation about home sale values recently due to the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, which I'm going to get to at the end of this video here in just a moment. But when you see data like this, I don't want you to confuse this with home values. A big reason why this is, and this is one thing that we hadn't quite expected so far for this year, is rates. So rates have kind of been the dominating story over the past year or two, roughly or so, aside from inventory. As you can see here, rates really kind of peaked around fall of last year and then slowly started, well, maybe quicker than slowly, but came down right at the end of the year, right at the beginning of the year. And a lot of us were thinking, okay, we're going to continue on our way back down. As you can see, we kind of got into, for the 30-year fixed, around the mid sixes. But then they began to tick back up, and we actually got back above 7, which a lot of people were surprised to see us getting back above 7 when we were down at 6 and expecting to continue to go back down. So what that means is people at higher price points are most likely sitting on the sidelines because they're affected more so. They're paying more interest, of course. Their mortgage payment's going to be higher with those higher interest rates. So it may just be, and it most likely is, that wasn't that home values went down over the past year. It's just that the homes that are valued higher are not selling as much or not coming to market as much. We also have that golden handcuff situation. If you haven't heard that term before, what it simply means is vast majority of the country has under a 4, and a lot of people have under a 3% interest rate that own homes, of course, and they don't want to move somewhere and become a buyer and trade that 3% interest rate for a 6 or 7% interest rate. So they're sort of stuck with their rates. And a lot of those people would be move-up buyers, people that would buy a larger home if rates were lower. So that's a big reason, I think, for the sale price and the median sale price going down year over year. If we look at average sale, median sale over the past year, Average sale price $564,000 versus $567,000 a year ago, and median $490 versus $500. So that's about what you're looking at on the northern Oregon coast. It can really vary. Some of the areas are a little bit more expensive, like Cannon Beach, going to be at least somewhere in the neighborhood of twice that number. But very roughly, a lot of the towns on the northern Oregon coast are going to be right around $500,000. And the competition that people are really going to see are going to be right here in this range, this 300 to 400 and 400 to 500 range. This is where you're going to find most of the buyers. This is where you're going to find homes that are still receiving multiple offers and in some cases above asking. This 400 to 500 getting up into the 600 range that you see right here. Those are mostly single family homes. And then you do have attached, and there's a fair amount of condos in these places as well. Those are going to be kind of closer to that 300 to 400 range. Let's look at one other data point here, and then we'll move on towards the central Oregon coast, because this is a question a lot of people have. What are homes selling for relative to their price? And if you look at the graph right here, we're in the orange at the beginning of 2024. So it looks like somewhere getting close to 6%, somewhere just above 5% below the list prices where homes are actually selling for. So all of you buyers out there right now, it's looking like a great time to buy on the northern Oregon coast. And if you're a cash buyer, like so many of you people are, you can probably add another point or maybe even two to that. Why is that if you've never bought a home with cash before? Well, the purchase price, of course, is going to be one of the most important, the most important thing to the home seller. But aside from them getting top dollar, they also want to know, when am I going to get my money and what's the chances I'm going to get my money? And with cash, you're going to get your money about twice as fast, or at least you can, about 2 weeks instead of the conventional loan, which takes about twice that amount of time, about a month. And of course, cash is much more likely to close. With a loan, there is some percentage of chance that the deal doesn't close, whether that be just 1 or 2%, maybe has a 96, 97, 98% chance of closing. It's not 100%, but with cash, that's as close to as 100% as you can get. So sellers prefer cash. They know they're going to get it faster. They know they're almost for sure going to close. So for that reason, you can usually come in a little bit lower with cash. Now, looking to the next county, this is Lane County. Most of the population here is going to be in Eugene, Oregon, but this is along the Oregon coast. This is along, as you can see, county that stretches to the Oregon coast. This is where Florence is, which there's just somewhere over 10,000 people that live in that area. It is one of the more popular places along the Oregon coast for tourism, especially dunes, off-roading, ATV types of things. And then it's also a great retirement destination for a lot of people, both living in Oregon and people relocating from outside of the state. So you can see here inventory 2.3 months, kind of about what we've been hovering around for the last year or so. So no big market changes in that area. And if you don't know, an average amount of inventory or an amount of inventory that's going to make it sort of a balanced market where the seller doesn't necessarily have a huge advantage or the buyer doesn't necessarily have a huge advantage is typically about 4 to 6 months. As you know, we've been very low inventory all across the country over the past year since COVID lockdowns and all that. Taking a look at new listings up February from January. Again, not a big surprise there, but year over year, let's compare February of 2024 to 2023. New listings up 25%. So even more so than the northern Oregon coast. But that inventory is lower because they're still selling a lot of homes. Pending sales up 21%, closed sales up 3.5% year over year. So you're seeing a little bit more activity in this area. New things coming to market, but things are also still moving quickly, keeping that inventory lower. So you might find a little bit more competition in that area. Again, this is data that includes Eugene, so it's not exactly going to reflect Florence. If you are thinking about moving to Florence, we can generate like some custom data for you if you really want to dig into that, or if you want to see any of these reports, just get in touch with us, shoot us an email, and we'll share one of these reports with you. Next, we're going to move on to Coos County, which is going to be the most populous place along the Oregon coast. That is where Coos Bay and North Bend are, which makes up about 25,000 people. The very popular Bandon is just south of Coos Bay, North Bend. And similar to Lane County, no big uptick in inventory. In fact, it went down a little bit. And again, along the Oregon coast, normally in a normal market, typically inventory is a little bit lower in the wintertime and a little bit higher in the summertime. People tend to bring their homes to market in the spring or summertime when there's more buyers, when they can potentially get more money for their home, when there's more competition. True in a lot of places. throughout the country, but especially so true along the Oregon coast. So ticking down at the beginning of the year for Coos Bay, as you can see, it actually did the same thing last year. So in Coos Bay, and we sold quite a few homes in Coos County. It's really going to be property dependent. It's still competitive in some places. Some places are still going above asking, multiple offers very quickly. Some things are still sitting on the market for quite a while. So new listings slightly down February to January. That would give you a reason why. Inventory hasn't yet ticked up. Pending sales slightly up. That's keeping inventory low. But compared to last year, where are we at? New listings down in this area. Again, that's the reason why inventory would be low. Pending sales up 9%, closed sales up 10%. So you're probably going to find a pretty balanced market. A reason why this market is also pretty active is because of this price point. As you see right here, average sale price change over the past 12 months, $359,000 versus $392,000. Median sale, $329,000 versus $355,000. In general, home values along the Oregon coast over the past year or so, up anywhere from 1% to 5%, depending on the area. I don't think there's too many areas that didn't experience appreciation. So again, don't confuse this average sale price of up 9.7%. Don't conflate that with home values. And then finally, we are going to look to Curry County. That is where you will find Gold Beach, and then Brookings, the ever popular Brookings. One of the more popular terms or words that people search along this channel, because a lot of people are looking to retire along the Oregon coast, and it's been this way since I was a kid. Brookings, the southwestern corner of Oregon, is really known for its just mild and temperate climate. So the weather draws in a lot of people to retire to Brookings, both from inside of Oregon as well as outside of Oregon. It might be the number one destination for people to retire, kind of roughly in that vicinity of the Pacific Northwest that are kind of looking for some temperate weather. Then you got the people that are looking for heat that move to Arizona to retire, but still pretty small area. There's under 10,000 people there, even if you include Harbor on the town of Harbor on the other side of the Chetco, maybe 7,000 people or so. And so inventory is highest here along the Oregon coast, 7.6 months. That's over that magic, and it's been this way in the past, as you can see. That's over that kind of magic number that I said of 4 to 6 months. So that would kind of indicate in a lot of cases that buyers are going to have a lot of leverage in this market. And it's just a unique market too. Things move a lot slower on the southern Oregon coast, including selling your home. So month over month, new listings, pending sales up. That's normal. Year over year though, look at this. February of 2024 versus February of 2023, new listings up 96%. Pending sales and closed sales. Pending sales up 34%, closed sales up 37%. Those are the biggest numbers that we've seen anywhere along the Oregon coast. So a lot of activity, a lot of transactions happening here, but even more so new listings coming up to the market, which is building up this inventory. And it's looking like it'll continue to do so as we head into the spring season. How about prices here? Average sale price versus previous 12 months, $462,000 versus $432,000, and median $400 versus $399. So that's kind of what you're looking at for Brookings. You're going to be in the 400s. If you want to be under the 400s, you're going to have to go to Coos County. Again, any of this data you want us to supply for you, we will get that to you. Just get in touch with us. All right, now let's get to that huge lawsuit. National Association of Realtors, $418 million class action lawsuit. It was an anti-competitive lawsuit. The attorneys will get about 20%. I've heard that homeowners, which are in the state of Illinois and Missouri that filed this lawsuit, are going to get anywhere from $10 to maybe $40 a piece. So it's not so much about the money. It's about what happened with this lawsuit and what it's going to change going forward. All right, so why did this happen? What prompted this lawsuit? Well, home sellers alleged that when they listed their home for sale, they weren't really given an option. They felt like they were forced to offer a commission to the buyer's agent. And above and beyond that, they felt like they weren't able to negotiate that commission. It's just, we have to offer a commission to the buyer's agent. Here's what the price is. You have no choice. Hence the price fixing. And this was all done via our local MLSs, a multiple listing service. The MLS is a thing where a realtor would upload their home for sale, upload the data, the information to that website, and then the MLS populates all the big real estate websites, the Zillows, the Redfins, the Realtor.coms of the world. My website that has a home search on it is populated from the MLS. So all of us realtors, whether you're a buyer's agent or seller's agent, we all have to be a part of the MLS. And on the MLS, there's a place where you can see where the buyer's agent commission is listed. You can see this on other big websites like Zillow, for example. And in order to be a part of the MLS, you have to be a part of your local realtor association. In order to be a part of your local realtor association, you have to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. So this is where NAR, National Association of Realtors, comes in. All these things are connected, and us realtors are all sort of forced to use these services. So a result of this lawsuit is that going forward, and this is going to start at the beginning of June of this year, brokers will not be able to list a buyer's agent commission on the MLS. Now, this has prompted a lot of conversation, a lot of headlines, a lot of clickbait, that there will no longer be a buyer's agent commission. And I'm sure there's probably going to be some cases where that's going to be true. For what we're hearing on our end, all of the sellers that we've talked to, all of the realtors that represent sellers that plan to list their home in the near future, all are planning to offer a commission for the buyer's agent. Now, you might be wondering why, especially if people are now given this out, or they're being told and they didn't necessarily know before, they didn't have to offer a buyer's agent commission. Why would they do so? Because it does seem a little bit funny. I agree, right? It seems funny to offer a commission to the other side that's going to negotiate against you. But there is a couple reasons, and specifically one very good reason why we expect sellers to continue to offer a buyer's agent commission, even though they're not going to be able to advertise it on the MLS, and that is competition. Most buyers want a buyer's agent representing them. Of course, there's some people out there going at it on their own, trying to buy a home without a broker representing them right now. But the vast majority of buyers want some sort of representation. And in fact, actually, sellers typically would prefer to accept an offer from a buyer that's represented by a broker, because when they're represented by a broker, there's a much higher expectation as to the timeline being followed and everything going the way that it should. Whereas if there's no broker, if you're just accepting an offer from Joe Blow off the street, you have no idea if that person's familiar with the timelines and contingencies and even all of the legal things that they've agreed to with the offer that they submitted. There are a lot of laws that have been legislated by the state that's part of real estate transactions. So for the most part, both sides want to have some sort of representation. And so when buyers want to have representation, if the seller can't use the proceeds from the sale of the home to compensate the buyer's agent, that means that some buyers might have to pay out of pocket. So in other words, some buyers might have more costs out of pocket beyond things like their closing costs now. And the more cost a buyer has out of pocket, the more prohibitive a property becomes and the less competitive the property becomes. So in other words, the easier a seller makes it for a buyer to buy their home, the more buyers they're going to attract, the more competition they're going to attract, the more offers they're going to attract, the more money they're going to receive for their home. That's how it's always been. So for that reason, I really don't expect a whole lot to actually change, other than, like I said, it won't be listed on the MLS. The other big change is people like myself representing buyers as a buyer's broker. We're now going to be required to have an agreement with you, just like an owner has an agreement with their listing agent. And I've heard some negative talk about these agreements too. Now, I'm not familiar with every state. It's different in every single state. But in the state of Oregon, the way that we use our buyer's agent agreements is really more so to protect ourselves as brokers from other brokers, even though it's not something that commonly happens. But what we worry about is if we work with a buyer and that buyer decides to just disappear on us and go use another broker for no reason at all, we might still be entitled to compensation if there is a transaction. Now, for the most part, the way that we use these buyer's agent agreements in Oregon when it comes to our relationship with a buyer is simply that if either party wants to walk away at any time, that's what we do. If we're not going to have a working relationship going forward, we don't want to force you to work with us, and we're not going to want to work with you if you don't want to work with us. So these new buyer agent agreements, at least in the state of Oregon, they're going to be more so for us realtors to protect ourselves more than just cornering a consumer to work with us. So there's been a lot of talk about all this, but those are going to be really the two biggest changes that might impact how this transaction goes, or there might be some sort of negotiation over commission. But that's about it as far as the buyer-broker relationship goes. Now, there's been some other talk about market conditions changing and the market changing as a result of this. One thing I've heard a lot about is home prices going down. A lot of people are saying now that home prices will go down because we're subtracting a fee, the buyer's agent fee, from this transaction. So less fees means more money in the pocket of the consumer. And that might be true for the seller, but I promise you That's not going to change for the buyer. The reason being is no homeowner is going to sell their home for a penny less than they can possibly get for it just because a fee was subtracted from the service. So home prices are not going to come down. If you own a home, your home is not worth any less now because we've subtracted potentially a buyer's agent commission fee from this transaction. Home's still worth just as much. Might not be worth as much if you make it prohibitive for people to buy your home. And I've made a lot of videos about predictions and home prices. I've made these videos for about 3 years now, make them about once a quarter. I don't step out on a limb too much or say anything too crazy, but I have been generally pretty spot on over the years. And if there's one thing that I feel confident about regarding home prices, because there's been so much talk about home prices over the last couple of years, when is the market going to crash? Has it crashed? Some people will try and tell you that it has, or it even is right now, even though data doesn't support that. But I've never felt stronger now than I do any time in the past that home prices will not go down because of this one thing. Home prices are solely dictated by supply and demand. If supply goes up or demand goes down, then home prices can change. But they're not going to change just because a fee was potentially removed from the equation. And then final thing on that note of fees, I do believe that we will stick with a percentage. Might change a little bit, maybe not so much in Oregon because we've already been below 6%, but there's a lot of talk of flat fees. Now, for listing agents that are selling homes, there's always been these services. There's a lot of flat fee services out there where typically a listing agent will put your home up on the MLS. They'll charge you like $500 and then you're on your own for there. And there's maybe some other tiers above and beyond that where they'll do a little bit more for you for $1,000, $1,500, and then you're on your own for there. There aren't really, at least that I know of, flat fee services for buyers. And I don't believe that there will be. And there's a couple of big reasons why. The first reason, there's kind of that joke that the buyer's agent doesn't do anything other than just opening a couple doors and maybe filling out a couple hours of paperwork. And so the thought is, well, I'll just pay a little fee to open a door and have them do a little bit of paperwork. It'll be very inexpensive. The problem is, us buyer's agents do a lot more than that, especially for people like you that are relocating outside of the state. There's a lot of legwork that we do for people that aren't familiar with an area, getting them acquainted and getting them into the right place or the place that they want to be. And it's really going to get costly if we have to nickel and dime people for every little service, or if we have to start charging people hourly like a lawyer, or charging people in hour increments for 15-minute things here and there. Not only isn't going to add up, but the big problem with that is, and I think back to a sale that I had a couple of years ago. I listed and sold a home in the peak, like around 2021 in the summertime, where the market was probably at its craziest, most competitive. This was a home around average price point, so it had a lot of competition. We had well over a dozen offers, and the very first offer that came in actually was the best offer that we got. It was like 16 or 17% above list price, and the explanation from the buyer's agent as to why they submitted such a strong offer to us is because she said that they had put in over 20 offers on other homes and got rejected. And the buyer was tired of that, and he really, really wanted to get the home, and he felt like he had to get the home this time. And good news for him, he did get the home. But I know a lot of other people that were in those same circumstances that did not get homes. There's a lot of buyers that wrote offers over the last couple of years, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different offers that didn't actually ever end up getting accepted and closing on a home. And those people are going to be paying all of these fees to buyer's agents without ever actually even closing on a home. And I have to imagine that those people are going to be the ones that really can't afford to pay those fees out of pocket without getting something in return, without accomplishing their goals and actually closing on a home, more so than any other people. So a fee-based system, I think, would really be terrible for buyers. I wouldn't want to do it as a broker because I do a lot of things for people, and I don't want to have to start tracking every little thing that I do and nickel and diming people. So for that reason, I doubt that we're going to go to some sort of flat fee-based system. I still think it's going to be a percentage. So I hope that helped you get a feel for what the market's like right now, what we're going to expect coming into the summer. Like I said, in a lot of places, it's a great time for buyers right now as rates are higher, inventory is building up, and there's less competition out there, especially if you have cash. So if you're somebody that's thinking about taking the next steps, if you have questions, if you want to see one of these reports, any of this data, I invite you to call me, text me, email me. You can hit this QR code that you see right there on the screen if you're watching from TV. That'll take you to our website where you can find all of our contact information, get in touch that way. You can also schedule a Zoom with us in the description of this video on YouTube. And if you want to see more videos like this, a lot of the videos on our channel are showing you what it's like on the Oregon coast. A lot of neighborhood tours, driving, drone footage, pros and cons, things that really give you a feel for the Oregon coast. We've got over 100 videos on the channel, so make sure and subscribe. And if this video helped you, give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, lets me know I'm doing a good job. And I want you to let me know in the comments, what do you think is going to happen to the Oregon coast real estate market in 2024? What are you worried about? What's on your radar? What are you looking for? Until next time, take care, everyone.